Hello everyone and welcome to the Crowdfund Sport webinar. I'm Tilly from Crowdfunder. For obvious reasons, we can't hold our workshops on location at the moment, so we're bringing them from our homes straight into yours. Hopefully by the end of today's workshop, you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding and the Active Together Fund to prepare you to crowdfund for your sport organisation. At the end, we'll send you a link to the Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you the tools to raise the money to make your idea happen. So just some quick housekeeping points before we start. We've allowed about 30 minutes for today's session. It could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, depending on the chat and questions that you guys ask us today. If you do want to ask a question, please type it in the chat box to the right of your screen and we'll try and make sure we get all of those answered during today's live session. As you're probably aware, most of us are working from home, so anything can happen. Our internet connection might drop out, you could hear a dog in the background, please bear with us. And finally, in case any of you are wondering, don't worry, we cannot see you, you can see us, but we can't see you. So today we're going to hear from our dedicated crowdfunder sport coach, Chloe, and we're also going to hear from someone who has crowdfunded before. So we'll find out what worked for them, what didn't work in making their campaign a success. Now, without further ado, let me introduce Chloe. Chloe, are you there?
Hello, how are you?
That's good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No worries.
So for those of us who are in the audience that aren't perhaps quite sure, can you tell us a little bit more about crowdfunding?
Yeah, absolutely. So crowdfunding is a great way to raise money and awareness for your organisation through engaging with the community. You'll create a page on our online platform and it will look like this. And don't worry if you're not too tech savvy, our tech team have done a great job of making the platform really user-friendly. On your page, you should outline who you are as a club, your impact in the local community, and why you're crowdfunding. So for the majority of you here, I expect that will be the effect that COVID has had on you as an organisation. You can add images and videos to make your page more engaging and add personality. And then you'll promote your page or campaign to your crowd and community. Those that want to support you or perhaps want one of your rewards will then make a pledge to help you achieve your goal. To help you make the most of your campaign, we have created a brand new online learning platform, especially for crowdfunding for sports. We will share all the tips and tricks of running a successful campaign. It's really important to make sure that you're happy with your page before you go live and before applying to any extra funding. This page, along with your application form, is what Sports England will be reviewing. So really important to make sure that you get your page looking top-notch before applying. Now, I mentioned something called rewards earlier. Crowdfunder are the top rewards-based crowdfunding platform, and that means that we offer our projects the option of adding rewards to their page, in addition to the standard donation that perhaps you'd associate with standard fundraising. This encourages larger and more pledges and enables you to attract pledges from outside your immediate network. So let me give you an example. This is Hawcote Park Community Sports Clubs. They, like most of you here, have been affected by the pandemic and so decided to crowdfund with us to keep their club afloat. They created a great page with loads of images, you can see a video on there as well, loads of detail about who they are and their impact in the community. And they also added loads of rewards as well. And that's perhaps my favourite part of their campaign. So they really thought about who their audience is. They thought about their obvious supporters, so those in the sports world. So they had things like archery lessons, tennis coaching, they had signed football shirts, you could hire the facilities. but they also reached out to the wider community. They spoke to local businesses who offered products that they could use as rewards, such as cakes, hampers, afternoon tea for two, there was haircuts, MOTs, loads of bargains, and a great way of bringing in a wider crowd and encouraging people to pledge maybe more than once or perhaps more than they'd offer as a standard donation. They managed to raise over £32,000. They're still crowdfunding at the moment, a couple of days left to go, and they've had over 270 supporters. So clearly this technique has worked for them. Now, we at Crowdfunder have teamed up with Sport England to help clubs and organisations who focus on bringing sport to the community and have struggled financially due to the coronavirus crisis. Part of this initiative is the Active Together Fund. Sport England have released an amazing £2.5 million to go to sports clubs around England. Each project can receive up to a maximum of £10,000 towards their project, or a maximum of 50% of your target. In order to be eligible to receive extra funding, organisations must be not-for-profit and deliver sport or physical activity to the community in England. Remember, Sport England will review both your application form and your page. So I must reiterate, it's really important to make your page looking great before you send your application through. So let me show you how it works. You'll create a page, apply for extra funding. You'll need to raise at least 25% of your target from the required supporter numbers in order to trigger that extra funding pledge onto your campaign. So let me give you an example. If my target is £10,000, then I can see here that I need to raise at least £2,500 from at least 50 supporters in order to activate that pledge. And it will go onto my campaign towards my target, and it will push me up closer towards my goal. Then I need to make sure that I reach 100% of my target in order to secure that extra funding. Once you reach 100%, everything is secure and safe for you to keep, and you can add a stretch target. This is a great way of stopping your page looking complete and give your supporters a reason to continue supporting you. Now, you guys are at an advantage here because sport actually crowdfunds really well. And that makes sense to me. Crowdfunding is all about communities getting together and cheering for a common goal. And I think the same could be said about sports as well. I've included on this page a few examples of clubs that have successfully crowdfunded with us. You'll see a whole variety on there. Do make sure that you check out the rest of the sports organisations that are crowdfunding with us. There's everything from cricket to rugby to gymnastics to dragon boat racing. Whatever the sport, you can crowdfund for it. That's all from me. Tilly, I'm going to hand back to you.
Amazing. Thanks, Chloe. What an incredible fund. So next up, we're going to hear from Rachel and Philip, who raised an impressive £26,000 for Hythe Cricket and Squash Club in October. If you have any questions for these guys, do, like I said earlier, pop them in the box to the right of your screen and we will get those answered for you. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you both?
Very well, thank you.
Morning, Tilly. Very good, thank you.
Good. So I briefly mentioned just then, your project raised over £26,000 from 179 supporters in October. That is absolutely fantastic. What an incredible achievement. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project?
Sure. We're a multi-sports club. We've got football, cricket, squash and racquetball. We're based in a seaside town in Kent, and a lot of our members come from the rural areas around it. We're by no means a big club. We had about 230 members when we started the crowdfunding campaign. And I think for us, certainly at the start of the year, like perhaps a lot of multi-sports club, each section was happily doing their own thing. We perhaps lost that sense of whole club community spirit. And obviously then COVID exacerbated that, in that people couldn't play sport, didn't feel connected to the club, lots of people feeling quite isolated. So when we kicked off our crowdfunding campaign in August, we really weren't sure how this was going to go. I think the beauty of the crowdfunder is it's very flexible. You can change it as you go along, as you learn, change the page, change what you offer, change how you communicate. But the two decisions you have to make at the start and are fixed are the length of time that you run your project for and your target. Yeah. We were told the optimum time for a project is about 4 weeks. We're a bit worried we didn't quite know what we were doing. So we went for 6 weeks. And we had some very interesting discussions about the target. And in the end, we decided we would just go for it because there's nothing to lose. Yeah. If you don't reach your target and you don't get your match funding, at least you keep everything that the club's raised. So for us, Chairman Philip said, yep, we're going for it. So we did. So we set a target of 20,000. We got to the target in just under 4 weeks, which I think blew us all away a little bit. Set a stretch target and ended up raising £26,000, which the money is phenomenal for a club like ours. It's phenomenal. But I think the things that we didn't expect were the community support and the club spirit that went with it. During the time of the crowdfunder, we gained 50 new members. And to put that in context, in the same 6 weeks last year, we got 6.
Wow.
And there was such a buzz about it. This is so exciting, tell you, because it's live, because you can see on your page donations coming in, you can see what's working. We'd be coming home from work and the page would have gone up by several £1,000s, and the texts were flying. Have you looked at it? Can you meet the target? So it brought a real buzz around the club and created a sense of community spirit that we hadn't had for quite a long time.
Incredible. Wow, that's amazing. And I definitely agree. It becomes almost addictive, doesn't it? The better you do, you're checking in and it's like Christmas every day. It's fantastic. Incredible. So in terms of kind of what you found most difficult about crowdfunding, what would you kind of say you perhaps struggled with, or you didn't perhaps think that you would struggle with, but you found that you did? Was there anything?
I think initially setting the target when you're not entirely sure about the way forward. So I think I'll just hand to Philip, if I may, just to explain about why our club did the crowdfunder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that because that may give you a little bit of a clue what's the difficulty of crowdfunding. I think that bluntly, March, April, May last year, we were thinking, how on earth are we going to survive the next few months? And I think that we've got a small committee, let's say of about 6 or 7, who probably keep ourselves to ourselves a little bit on how the club is managed and organised and funded. And we rely massively on the boot fairs, which brings in about 20 grand a year, but we have an outgoing probably of £3,000 or £4,000 a month, and we were thinking we were down to nothing. But what we didn't do, we actually didn't tell the members what was really going on, and say, well, actually, because members generally in a club just allow the committee to just get on with it and believe that everything's fine, and we have a committee. We're just thinking, well, at what stage do we tell the members where we're at? And I think that we told the members probably 4 or 5 months in, saying, well, things are pretty desperate. We were glad of the 10 grand from the government, and that kept us afloat. And then when this opportunity for crowdfunding came up, we were saying, wow, we need to have a look at this very seriously. But what it did, it enabled us to communicate very effectively to the members to say, if we don't get behind this, we are going to be in dire straits and have no money. And it proved to be, a massive eye-opener in terms of we should start to communicate more effectively to our members in whatever way. And I think that so that's why we decided to crowdfund. One nearly says there wasn't a great deal of choice, and massive thanks to Sport England who are right throughout were very, very good. And I think that, and gladly we're understanding what Sport England are about. And I think the more you get involved with Sport England, that actually does get to understand how money could become available. And this crowdfunder project was just, like a miracle that came along. So, so that's why we, decided to crowdfund. And, so the difficult part of it, I suppose was, as Rachel was just saying, what total do we go for? Because there's the risk of thinking, well, if we don't hit the target, we won't get the Sport England contribution. So that was always the one, well, do we or don't we? But, you can tell from listening to Rachel, she's got full of life and enthusiasm, and we've got 2 or 3 similar to Rachel, and that's what you need. So we had that, group of people.
Amazing.
So does that answer the question? I'm not sure whether...
No, absolutely spot on. That was really, really helpful. And leading on from that, and I guess you've touched on it a little bit there, what kind of did you find worked best for you? Was it having a team of people, that you could kind of divide the workload up with? What was it that really helped you guys, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think we got a group together, about 12 people, because we offered it out to the club, the members. We have a very good email system, but that's it in terms of communication, which is definitely not enough. We needed to make sure we tune in with social media. And that highlighted something that we weren't very good at. But I think that so back to the group of people, 12 people, we split up some duties. Obviously, we needed 1 or 2 people to mastermind, and that's where Rachel came in to mastermind the project. But we met every Wednesday on Zoom and just say, well, what's going on? And I suppose that's worked very well. And of course, the social media part, the fact that Rachel mentioned that we gathered together a few extra members, but more like 25% extra new members came along. And that's probably partly down to we opened ourselves up to the community. And I think that that's the secret, or one of the secrets. Rachel might want to add to that.
If I may, Philip, I think one of the biggest barriers to taking part in crowdfunding, I think, for a sports club is when you look at it, you think it's a digital marketing campaign. I know I first looked at it and we thought, well, hey, in our club, we're not particularly social media savvy. Big sections of the club are still working on, phone calls and word of mouth. And I think the sort of breakthrough for us was realizing that actually it's not doesn't have to be a digital marketing campaign. What you're trying to do is to help everybody to understand all they need to do is to donate through your page. So by setting up a weekly call of people that were interested, they in a sense became our ambassadors throughout the campaign. And what we tried to do was enable people to communicate in their own way. So, for example, there was one man on the call every week who said, I don't think I can do very much. But what he did was to talk to people. And because it's live, because you can see the impact, there's no doubt that he made a huge impact. He said, one morning I've spoken to 5 dog walkers, and you could actually physically see on the page between 9 and 11, obviously when they all got home, a couple of donations came through. So I think for us, it was talking to all the people in the club who hold an email account, who perhaps have a WhatsApp group for a team, with our partner clubs, people who use our facilities. It was making sure that they're key people within the loop, so that anything we were sending out was being distributed through everybody's networks in their own way. Yeah. And what we tried to do was to make it as accessible as possible. So, for example, people who aren't used to donating online, aren't used to using a web page, we did things like having bunting and posters up in the club. We had little business cards made so that people who just wanted to hand them over to say, look, we're running a crowdfunder, here's how you get to the page. We made sure on a couple of occasions there were people available with a laptop. So you know, for someone who wanted to donate, wasn't confident with using social media or using the page, there was someone who could give them a hand. Doing socially distanced donating on a laptop is a bit of a challenge, but we managed. So I think for us, it was very much about thinking, okay, how do we communicate? Who are the key people? And then spreading the information among them.
Amazing. It sounds like you kind of reached out to everyone possible and made sure that each of those groups, those individuals, had a way of accessing your page and that they could donate or support, which is fantastic. So Chloe mentioned earlier about rewards and offering rewards on your page. So you guys had a really great range of rewards. Can you tell us which you found worked best for you guys?
I'm going to jump in again, Philip, if that's all right.
You're the expert on the rewards.
I think rewards worked for us well in two ways. The first was, as Chloe said earlier, really the rewards are the key to bringing people to your page who might not otherwise come and visit it. And for us, obviously, there are a lot of people connected with the club, invested in the club, who were happy just to make a donation. But what rewards did for us was a way of bringing in people who might not otherwise have noticed us. And as we got better at it over the time, we found that we could actually use the rewards to give us an excuse to communicate. So just for example, we had a couple of people who donated gardening related rewards, a consultancy service and a mow your lawn service. And someone mentioned that a Pilates group also had a lot of members who were part of the gardening club. So we'd already sent out an email to the Pilates group twice saying, we've got a crowdfunder, can you help us? And the last thing any of us want to do is, you know, to be hammering people asking for money, particularly in such a difficult time. But when we had gardening rewards and we knew they were interested, obviously straight away you can reframe your email and say, we've got a couple of things, we think you might be interested, here they are. And it brought more people to the page.
Yeah.
I think the second thing with rewards that worked brilliantly for us was as a way of engaging members in the community. I mean, we all know it's been such a tough year for a lot of people who may want to support the club but aren't in a position to give an item or cash. So for when we realised that a reward doesn't actually have to be a thing, it can be a skill, and we could make little gift vouchers. So for example, someone donated a quilt making workshop. And so on our rewards page, it was the workshop and we could send out a gift voucher. So it wasn't something you had to deliver immediately. It could be something that, you know, when we can get together in better times, it would appeal to someone. And members did that with their contacts. We had one lady walk the length of the high street, pop into businesses and say, we've got a crowdfunder, can you help us? And businesses donated all sorts of things. And it felt a little bit like a two-way street because we were then able to acknowledge their business. You know, when we were sending out the likes of the email to the Pilates Club, you could say, you know, it's this landscaping service that has donated this business. So it felt a little bit of a two-way street.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of the crowdfunder, we could send a thank you certificate to all of those businesses who now have our logo up in their businesses. So it's been a little bit, for us, the long-term effects of building up a relationship with our community through the rewards has almost been as important as the money that we got from the rewards.
They're relationships you'll have forever as well, aren't they? Which is incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Rachel. You guys have touched on this a little bit, but I just want to revisit it if we can. In terms of kind of who helped with your campaign, can you let us know who exactly, you know, how you divided it up and who took which role, and kind of how you managed that side of things? Okay.
I think that as a group of 12 of us, there was certainly Rachel was organising us, so you do need someone to organise people, and I think that and we allocated tasks such as who was going to do social media, bearing in mind we've got various sports within the club, so football, cricket, squash, and a social area as well. So we allocated some tasks to them to just use their network. I think Rachel mentioned, I think that, when you've got 12 people who are going to just do a small little bit, that actually works really well, because 12 small little bits become, massive bits of activity going on. So I think that that certainly is the key. And she mentioned someone walking up and down the high street. What she then did, she walked into the local newspaper, the free ad paper, and got a 2-page spread. So that was, you think, wow, we didn't expect that. So the community did open up to us. So that was just that one person, and I think that I would still say that we probably had 50% of our members contributing something, and so how do we split it all up? I think we were able, because back to this club spirit, I think we did generate a very good club spirit, and therefore there was a sort of a snowball effect, and it was amazing. And you're thinking, wow, people are doing stuff that we never ever thought they would do. And I'm sure clubs listening will have those sort of members in the club that they just want to liven up, and we have livened a few up. The fact, and we've livened others who may have been there in the background before but have joined again. So I think for us it was just a great all-round effort, and so and as soon as you get people engaged with it, then I think you start the ball rolling. And just one more thought is that we actually had an auction, because there were some very good contributions that come in called rewards, which we thought, actually, let's try and get a little bit more out of these rewards. So we auctioned, I think, 4 or 5 different rewards, and probably got 2,000, 2,500 extra, if you like, in terms of contributions into the crowdfund, on the basis that there was more people looking for the particular reward. We had a golf weekend. We had someone offering a villa in Spain. Well, that went for half a decent amount of money. And I'm sure every club has got 1 or 2 members who can actually contribute a really good reward, which you can auction. Absolutely. So if there was, that's possibly not the one way that we may not have thought about, but I think we decided that's the way to get maximum money out of the rewards. That sounds dreadful, doesn't it? Maximum rewards.
No, you've got to kind of be savvy with those rewards and try and kind of entice everyone, who's part of those networks. So making sure you've got something on offer for everyone is absolutely key, and definitely reaching out to, like you said, local businesses and kind of delegating the work to them, if you like, is absolutely key. Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. So I just quickly want to ask you, what is your kind of key piece of advice that you'd give someone who is perhaps thinking about crowdfunding?
Find someone like Rachel in your club.
I'm going to deflect that, Philip. I would say the first thing, think about how your club communicates, in that if you are a club with a strong social media presence, it may be that 1 or 2 people can run the campaign through social media. For example, Stockport Rugby Club did a sensational campaign, I think largely through social media. If you're like us, and you communicate through a range of methods, I think it's identify all the people in the club who hold those email lists and those contact lists and engage them early. I think the second piece of advice I would give is to learn from other clubs. Go on to the Crowdfunder page and have a look at other clubs, and you learn tons, not only about the rewards and how they present themselves, but the other part of it is so inspirational. You look at, some of the videos that clubs have produced, and it's just so inspirational about the strength of sport in our country. So that's a fantastic way to learn, but it's also quite inspirational before you start your own campaign.
Yeah.
Can I just add one more, Rachel? Yeah, I think that you do also need to be very creative about offering advanced membership opportunities, and to try and entice your current members to pay some advance membership fees. But you need to be very creative, and I think we were quite creative about ours. We were fortunate in as much our membership starts from January, so therefore we were able to entice people to pay in advance with a little bit added as well, so which was a very, very good reward. But we actually backed off a little bit at the end to balance that out. So members are very keen to perhaps save a little bit of money, or even get a little bit more for their money in advance. And so we've got a number of really nice advanced membership deals going.
Brilliant, amazing. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. It's
You're welcome.
really great to hear from you guys, and I no doubt that you've inspired lots of our audience members today. So thank you so much. I'm now going to bring back on, Chloe's going to come back on, and we're going to answer some of the questions that our audience members have asked. So hopefully Chloe is joining us now. Hi, Chloe.
Yeah, back.
Just like magic. So we've got some questions for you guys here. First of all, I'm going to start with some questions for Philip and Rachel, if that's okay. So Stuart has asked, did you feel like you were begging when you put together your crowdfunding campaign?
No.
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 I think the thing that certainly we learned early on is that I'm sure, like lots of people listening, we've all done grant applications, and you, in that case, what it feels like is a couple of people in a room sweating over paperwork, wondering if you're pitching it right. Early on, I think we learned that the beauty of the crowdfunder is that what you're doing is sharing with everybody, here's our situation, can you help us? And certainly something that I learned, writing your page is really easy in practical terms. You know, you type in a box and press next. But when we first did our page, we wrote it like a grant application, because we're thinking, oh my gosh, you know, Sport England are going to review this and the money depends on this. And early on in the campaign, we got a message from our Sport England program manager to say, oh, actually your page is no good. And he was right, because what you're doing is talking to your crowd, who are the family, the friends, the businesses, the community who are going to support you. So for us, it didn't feel like begging, it felt like being very open and honest and saying, hey, we need some help here, can you help us? And the page was the way of explaining that.
Absolutely. And I think being as open and honest and transparent as possible is often what your members need to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, just one thing I would also say, that we need to become salesmen for a short period of time. I think everyone's got some salespeople in their club. You need to find them, because, you know, we don't like to hear the word no. Salesmen get it all the time. So I think you're going to get some no's, but you're going to get lots of yeses.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we've got another question from Chris. He says, love the rewards, but in lockdown/tier 3, it's difficult to engage with potential kind of wider support. Do you think it's worth waiting until restrictions ease first before launching a campaign?
I would say our experience is no, because during lockdown, we're all lacking that sense of, you know, something to achieve, forward to. And certainly we viewed rewards as a gift voucher, as something nice to look forward to. For example, the sport rewards that we offered, like squash coaching and cricket net coaching, obviously we can't deliver them now, and we're unsure of when we can deliver them. So we were offering them in terms of, you know, if you buy this reward, we made up little gift vouchers that had the name and number of the person giving the reward, valid for 12 months, and it made a nice gift. And so, for example, in lockdown, we had, you know, a granddad and a grandson who each bought the other cricket coaching as a gift and gave it to each other for their birthday. So I would say the beauty of rewards are that you don't have to deliver them now. It's a future thing that you can deliver. And so there's no reason that you can't do it during lockdown.
I'm just going to add to that as well. I completely agree. And remember that these rewards you're promoting other businesses as well. And God knows we all need that help at the moment. So if anything, it's a great time to get in touch with those people now.
Definitely. And lots of people are, based at home and perhaps do have a bit more time on their hands to sit and, read and absorb your page. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, I've got another question here from Helen. 2 questions from Helen. The first, how did the auction process work in terms of the reward?
Shall I answer?
In case I say the wrong thing.
I mean, we had 30 businesses offer rewards. So what we did was to decide which we'd put on the page, which we'd use in a raffle, and which we'd use for an auction. And as Philip said, the sort of more high value rewards we used for the auction. At that point, we were very lucky because we could still have the club open. We weren't in tier 3 at that stage. So we had a socially distanced auction at the club. And what we did was when people had, won the auction, won the reward, they paid for the reward on the night through the crowdfunder. And we, in our records kept a note to say that was an auction reward. It wasn't a straight donation.
Yeah.
So that's how we managed it.
That's how it worked.
Again, when you get into this process, the help you get is brilliant. And our crowdfunder coach and our Sport England programme manager were both really open to questions about, do you know another club that's done an auction, or do you know another club that's done a raffle? So if you're considering it, it's always worth asking, what do you know? Can you help us? What advice can you give us?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, checking out those other pages as well is definitely worth doing, because rewards it's really good to be really creative with rewards, and there's no harm in checking out other clubs and thinking that's a brilliant idea, let's do that too.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
It's tried and tested, isn't it? And that if that's been a successful reward, then the likelihood that you can make it a success too is really high. So I think you've answered Helen's second question, which was kind of how did you do that? Did you do it on the crowdfunding site and then add the funds in after? So they paid it onto the page that night and you kind of earmarked it as the auction. That's fantastic. So we've got another question. How did you get hold of the money from donors? That's from Bernard. So I'm not entirely.
I'm assuming that's just probably a question about generally how does it work. I'm assuming here, Bernard, correct us if we're wrong. So a supporter has to pledge onto your campaign using a card. They can either donate or they can pledge on a reward and claim that reward for themselves. And it's just a simple card payment online.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chloe. So we've got some more questions coming in now. Let me just... So is there, this is a question from Brenda, is there a timeline for raising funds, i.e. 28 days, 2 months, 3 months? Chloe, do you want to take that one?
I'm not sure if I've paused there or if Tilly has.
Oh, I can see you guys still. Me.
Okay, so you can set your own time scale anywhere between 2 and 8 weeks. Rachel mentioned earlier, we suggest 4 weeks is the best. This gives you enough time to get through your crowdfunding campaign and promote to absolutely everyone, speak to the press, get some rewards, but also it's not too long that it exhausts yourself. It is hard work, and also your audience as well. We don't want to just keep shouting at them for months and months and months because the interest disappears. So keep it short and sweet and make a real impact in that 4 weeks.
Incredible. Brilliant. I've got a question from Richard. Richard is asking if donations are received before the start date, can these be added along with gift aid?
So if you get some donations before you go live, presumably that's a cash payment. So you'd have to put that onto your campaign yourself. You can claim gift aid through Crowdfunder, so that's no problem. Just be aware that if you are putting any offline donations on yourself, they will only count as one unique supporter, and we know supporter numbers is important. So where possible, ask people to pledge themselves, but if needs be, you can add those cash donations on yourself as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chloe. A question from Damien, another one for Chloe. Do you still receive the money donated even if you don't reach your target?
Okay, we have two options. We've got all or nothing or keep what you raise. Both of them do what they say on the tin, really. So if you select all or nothing, you have to reach your target in order to secure any of the money that you raise at all. If you choose keep what you raise, then you will keep anything you raise from the crowd. If you don't hit your target, you won't secure Sport England extra funding. So it's worth putting an achievable target, even if you do opt for that option. People usually choose all or nothing for a couple of reasons. You may need a certain amount of money to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. But also it's a massive motivator for both you and your crowd. If everyone can see you're 500 quid shy of reaching your target, and if you don't get it, you're going to lose everything, everyone's going to put their hand in their pockets and give a little bit more. And also for you, you're going to find that money, I guarantee it.
Definitely.
You do.
You guys can vouch for that, I think. Amazing. So I've got a question from Christine. She says that she teaches swimming lessons in a small pool in her back garden, and she would like to put an outdoor pool in for some people to use and for her to teach in. Would crowdfunding be a way to go?
Yeah, you can absolutely crowdfund for that. You need to be a registered organisation in order to apply for extra funding. So do double check the terms and conditions to see if you're eligible. But regardless of extra funding, crowdfund, it's a great way of raising some funds and bringing awareness to your swimming lessons.
Perfect. Thank you, Chloe. Another question here. Can club members prepay monthly annual subscriptions made using the platform? And do these kind of count towards the crowdfunding total for Sport England to kind of match?
Sorry, could you repeat that one?
Yeah, so can club members prepay like monthly or annual subscriptions onto the platform?
Yeah, so I think, Philip, you mentioned that earlier. You can absolutely put your membership fees on there. Sport England won't just match membership fees. You need to find some other rewards in there as well, but it's certainly a good way of getting some funds through the door.
Yeah, for example, as far as we were concerned, those squash members were able to, for the first time, able to buy lights, which was offered at some really advantageous rates, which encouraged people to spend more than £100 on their membership because we gave them some lights. So that was quite creative on our part, but we restricted it to, I think, probably 10 because we knew members might probably have gone a bit too heavy on it. So we just got to be clever with it, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another question from Christine, and I think you guys have probably touched on this earlier on. So with crowdfunding, did you find that it was mainly people that you knew personally who kind of put money onto your campaign, or was there a real mixture of who those people were?
It was a real mixture, and that was part of the surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, we had 107 people who just made a donation, not in return for anything. And 40 of those were completely unconnected to the club. So that for us was the real surprise about the community wanting to support the club. And when you look at rewards, of the rewards that people bought, about 80% of people who bought rewards were not connected to the club. So I think that just bears out the fact that rewards bring people to your page who might not otherwise be there.
Absolutely, and you're forging relationships with those new people, aren't you, and building new ones with them, and that's the beauty of crowdfunding, I think. Brilliant. Well, we have run over slightly, so I'm going to kind of wrap things up, if that's okay with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been excellent. Chloe, can you just tell us kind of what the next steps are in terms of what we need to do now?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me get the presentation back up. This is our wonderful crowdfund learning platform. We have put together all the tips and tricks you need in order to run a successful campaign, and it's specifically designed for crowdfunding for sport. So please do follow the link that I'm sure our webinar moderator will add into the chat box. Follow that link and check out the Online Learn platform.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Chloe, and also to Rachel and Philip. It's been fantastic. As Chloe mentioned, do please follow the link to the platform to take the next steps in your crowdfunding journey. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and take care.